Easy E, how are we?
Shawnee.
Do you know what? Before you get into this one, because just I want to go back a couple of episodes in the podcast. You've been talking about how you're struggling, going through town and different routes. And before, like we were going to work every day on the bike, you were struggling about different roads and not being too busy roads, stuff like that. I had a look at Strava today now before hitting record button the podcast. It's Wednesday evening recording this because I'm away for the weekend. Where were you?
So, as I don't know if I've actually mentioned it, but I'm doing the Mizen to Malin cycle for charity. So I'm cycling the full length of the country and I've no business doing it, but we're doing it over the course of 5 days. So every Wednesday in work, there is a training cycle. Unfortunately, I've been that busy, I've never made a single training cycle. So that's why I've been cycling in and out every day. So I think when we started talking about it, I was just doing 17 in and 17 home, and I was near death. I was like, how am I going to do this? But I do the 17 in, but every night home, I do a lap of the park, which adds 9K. So I built it up to 25. Then it was to 34 kilometers. So this morning, I cycled in, got my 17K in. Then I went off on the cycle. We cycled through Tala, the N81, and took a left turn for Sally's Gap. And from there, it's a 13-kilometer climb to the top of Sally's Gap. So, and then we stopped up the top for about 5 minutes, and then it was the most hair-raising descent for 13 kilometers. But I haven't checked my speed. I'm curious. Easily over the 50, 60, but it was good. I hit a few bumps and had a few speed wobbles, and then said, no, fuck that, slow now. It's not worth it. But then as we got down, we took a left and then we climbed over what's called Sorrel Hill. So the guy who was leading the group, and in fairness, was the best I've seen Garmin. If you load up the file, it tells you like, take the next right, take the next left. So you can plan your route and know the elevation and stuff, and it'll tell you like when to take turns. It's absolutely class.
How is it telling you the route? You got a thing on like right your computer on the thing,
I'm gonna get it wrong. I think it's called a GTX file. So if you load a GTX file onto your Garmin, you can then follow a route on your Garmin.
On the watch?
Yeah. So
the watch tells you where to go?
Yeah. So you're like, because it's a preloaded route, so you've selected the route, and then it's like in 6 kilometers, you're turning right. Do you know, like it's cool. It is cool. It's very good. So that kept us honest.
We need to talk about how you did that and everything else, but I'm going to hit this intro music very quick and you can get your thoughts on whereabouts we're going to go with this. So intro music, let's go. Who was you coming at me with GTX files and everything? I thought,
Listen,
Progress Peak and POC files.
I could be wrong. The lads were talking about USBs and the ESBs and the GTXs and anyway, look, I'd be on a GIF. I was like, what? And I'm an electronics engineer. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? But I seen it in action because I was cycling, leading out, but it was more so to put the reins on the leader to be like, listen, it's the warmest day we've had in a long time. I was like, there's no hero stuff today. So, like we set off at 1 o'clock, like the hottest point of the day as well.
26, 27 degrees.
Yeah, no, it was nasty. Man. But a run would have been worse because you had that bit of breeze. You didn't really notice it. Obviously, when you took a break, you were like, geez, I'm wrecked. And then it was like, oh, yeah, it's scalding out. But it was amazing because he'd be like, oh, we've 6K to the next turn. And I was like, geez, you really know this route? And he was like, oh, sure, it's on me watch. And I just looked and you could see the road. And then it was like 6 kilometers counting down. And then it was a left turn signal to give to him. And I was like, how did you do that? And I was like, oh, I just loaded up. And I was like, whatever file, GTX file. And I was like, this is impressive. So, because we're cycling, the first day of the cycle is 160 kilometers. And that's day one. The second day is 160 kilometers. And then it's 110 and an 80 and then a big one for the last. I can't remember the full breakup. But we're doing a test cycle in 2 weeks, which is 110 kilometers through the Wicklow Mountain or the National Park. And you're up and down hills for days. But the guys have sent out the file so that everyone can do it individually. You don't have to go as part of the group in your own time on a Saturday or Sunday. You can just load the file onto your watch and just cycle till you reach the 110 kilometer finish.
I'm assuming there's a website or something for this GTX file.
I think it could be through Yeah, could be through Garmin, could be through Strava. I will look into it. We will come back to this next week. But I know that some guys with their turbo trainers or their electric trainers at home or smart trainers, they can also load it onto their smart trainers, and from their house they can do the cycle. So it will follow the same. It will follow the same gradients of the hills. It will follow everything as it should be, except without being outdoors. You know, like so.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So that was my day. I had a lot to learn. Like, it's one of those things, kind of like when we talked about the running. I haven't done 90 kilometers in a while.
Yeah.
But when I did my 17K in, so it was actually 110 I did today. So 17 in, did 3 hours of work and up and down and a little bit of everything. And then it was, okay, I'm going cycling again. The first couple of times I was like, oh, Jesus. And then as we started to get, you can see Sally's Gap and you can see what you have to do, which is kind of nice because you're like, just look in front of me, but I know where I'm going. Halfway up, I got that thing in the brain going, nah, just turn around, fuck this. We got to the top, but not once. It was actually kind of, now everyone else, like there were some serious heroes with me today, like fit people, 60 to 70, some of them 80 kilos, and they were able to fucking just get up this hill like it was nothing. Now, not that it was nothing, they were all sweating and it was warm, but like I did notice I could not keep up with them. But also part of me was like, the aim is not to get up to this hill first. The aim is to get up to this hill and be able to cycle another 100 kilometers. So, you know, I went to the lowest gear and just toddled my way up, kept the consistency, didn't break. The odd time you have to stand up just to give the glutes and the bum a break. And I got to the top, and it was the first time I've been proud of myself in a while, because 4 weeks ago I took on a hill and I had to stop 6 times and get off the bike going up it, just because mentally lost, the body gave up, the glutes gave up, the bum was raw, you know, like, and it was on a short cycle and I was like terrified going up this, but it was nice. And then the downhill was obviously the downhill, but then we came to the next hill, which was steeper than Sally Gap, but shorter, not to the same elevation, but the climbing sections were a little bit steeper as we we're heading up over Sorrel Hill. And I was like, oh no, we're in a climb again, because everyone mentally was like, we've done the climb, it's all downhill now. And then I actually felt more at ease. I was actually like, oh, that's grand, because I knew what gear. I knew, you know, once I keep the legs turning, I'll get over this. It's not, my legs weren't burning. My arse was sore. My glutes were giving me a little bit of, but like the gear was that light that it was just a matter of time before I got to the top. And it was the first time I've had that attitude that I was actually like, I don't care where the rest of them are. You know, like, I know I was kind of bringing others along with me, but trying to be the back marker was my role today, but I was kind of naturally nearly the back marker anyway. But it was confidence building for me because of the last 5 days. It's not just how fast you do the first day, it's over 5 days. So, but it was great. But then we got back to Baldonnel. That was 65 kilometers, 66 kilometers done. And then I had to cycle home. And I had this moment then, and I was like, so at this point, I think it was 1,000 meters climbed, so about 3,000 feet climbed. And then on the cycle home, I rang Kate. I was like, look, I'm just gonna cycle home. I'm bollocks, I haven't eaten much. I was like, I'm just gonna get home. And then as I was on the cycle, I was like, I actually feel very comfortable. And like the numbness, I think the bum just went numb. It was actually not sore anymore. It was just like, do you know what, we're done with you. You were wearing
padded shorts, right?
I had the padded shorts, but it was still numb. Like when you're 90 kilos, like force per unit area, when you're sitting on a saddle at 90 kilos, like it's just not going to be nice. So it fucked off. I don't know where it went. It just said good luck. And I just got into a nice rhythm on my normal because I was used to it. It was like when we were doing different runs, when you get to where you're like, I know this hill, I know what gear. And I was coming along the park and I was like, I'm not going home, am I? If I went home, it would have been 82 kilometers. And I was like, 90 just sounds better. Yes. 90 just sounds better. Like the crack is 90, it was 90, you know, like
it's never crack is 82.
90, 82 is shit. Yeah. So I got into the park, and those who know, as you come towards Park 8th Street and you turn onto the main avenue, Chesterfield Avenue, it's a nice climb up. And there I was, people leaving work probably on the bike 2-3 kilometers. There I was, passing them out on the bike up the hill. And I'm 85 kilometers in. And I cycle down Miltry Road, and there's a big climb as you get towards Chapel Lizard. There's like a hill just underneath St. Mary's Hospital, and then it climbs all the way up to the OPW. But the only badge I got today was my third fastest climb up that hill. And I've cycled it for the last 4 weeks, and I get my third fastest on the day I had 90 kilometers done. I'm this is unbelievable.
It's mad how sometimes people look at the overthink plan. So for example, you're going from Mizen to Malin Head, you have this whole trek ahead of you, 5 days, 160k. It's oh my God, what's the training plan? How am I going to do this training plan and all the rest? And you literally went, no, I'm going to break it down, make it basic. My plan is to get to work and from work. I've got a bit of time now. I can cycle to work and from work and build up my mileage slowly but surely that way, and then get training runs like you're doing now close to the time. It's that sounds too simple to be true, but look where you were 4 weeks ago. Look where you were at the different events you've done just at the start of 2022. And look where you are now doing 90K, and you're passing people out going 85K in, and your training plan. And this is not a knock. It's simple. It's basic. But you know what? Basic works.
And it is. And those who have listened, it's kind of been embarrassing, my training. We're talking about a fitness podcast. I've done fuck all for the first 6 months of the year. We were doing up in apartments. Most of my time was spent doing floorboards or doing tiles, and I didn't train. That's why I postponed. And it was I kind of got into myself because I wanted to be training, and I just had to get back to basics. And 17 kilometers seemed massive at the time. And for the first week, I was in bed at 10 o'clock every night. I was I am wrecked. My legs are wrecked. Everything is wrecked. Whereas it's only been 4 weeks, and this is kind of the point that I was the experiment. I was 95 kilos. I've been at this 4 weeks. I'm now 89.5. And I've been eating my takeaways. I've been drinking my beers. But the only thing I've had is consistency.
Yeah.
So I've had consistency in the cycling in every day. And then each week I just added on 1 lap at the park, and that was 9 kilometers extra. So now I'm up to 50 kilometers every day as a normal. And if I can get out on the day of the training or the weekend. So this weekend, there is we'll call it the Tour de Kildare, but it's a 110 kilometer cycle on Sunday. So
I've heard about that.
Yeah,
there's a 65 or 110k option or something. That popped up my feed actually. If something must got targeted on that or something.
Yeah, so that's the plan. So it's kind of like going on the long run. Do you know, I can do 50 a day, 100%. I can do 50 a day. Now I just need to do it, a little bit longer and get accustomed to just being in the saddle for that time. So we're 4 weeks out, and that'll be 2. Now, granted, there was 3 hours between my first 17k and the 91k or whatever, but it was still 110 kilometers of cycling this day, and it'll be 110 on Sunday. So all in all, it'll be 300 plus kilometers for the week, or a bit more. But 4 weeks out, it's a good gauge. So now all I have to do is just maintain that consistency. So next week, it'll move up to 60 kilometers every day. I'll be back in Clane. So my commute is now 25 kilometers, regardless if I added an addition. So the idea is we'll do a lap of Baldonnel around the airfield first. That's 8k. So before I head home, so it'll be 35. So we're into about 70k now a day. So it's just the confidence and the weight's coming off and the running is happening. And
brilliant.
It's been 4 weeks. And for those who have found themselves lost, I was lost. All I stuck to was just the basics. Let's keep it small. I had to get to work. I left my car in work. I had no choice. So I had to get there. Do you know, and if you put yourself in a position where you have to do something, it doesn't need a habit. It doesn't need motivation. You have to do it. So I left my car in work. There was no choice. There's no bus. There's no this. And you just have to go and do it. And then when you're coming home, it's kind of I'm awake now. I can cruise it. It'll take me time. I'll get home about 6. It's easier then in the evening. But I haven't changed my diet. I'm eating takeaways because I had to sort one thing at a time, and it was the cycling. And this is what I said to you. I was I'm going to cycle first. Right. And you're but we're training for a marathon. I was fuck the marathon. I'm going to cycle.
Yeah.
And I've said to you that like the cycling will substitute running in terms of endurance building, like 4 hours at an average heart rate of 140 on the bike today. So like
That's aerobic base, there's zone 2 training right there.
That's it. But you do need to be running. Like even on my runs now, it was hot weather, heart rate was spiking, and it was like the knees were kind of going, oh, we're doing this again. So you do need to get your impact training in. You do need to do that a little bit. I'm not saying you can cycle all day and then go run a marathon. That's just, the body will just not agree with you on it, but you can definitely balance it. So now the running's been introduced this week on top of that. So I ran the equivalent to 10k this week, 2 5Ks, and that was in addition to this as well. So all in all, like it's bite-sized chunks. And then I think from next week, running's back, cycling's back, confidence is up. Now it's time to target nutrition. 5 weeks after I made the first step of we are getting fit again.
Yeah, broke it down step by step.
Yeah, and the weight has come off with all the normal eating. Everything is being normal, but now it's time to listen. You're training like an athlete now. You know, you're doing these miles. You have to start looking after the body now. So, and now it's an extra motivation. It's like, I need to eat at this time because I have to get 35k in, and I want to have good fuel for that, so I can get a good I'm running at lunch, so I have to eat at this time. So the training is now dictated the diet very simply, and it should fall into place in the little tiny zones that has it.
That right there is a great reason for the diet and nutrition. It's like, why am I eating this food and why am I eating that? And some people, to lose weight, and it's just to lose weight. You've already haven't set a number in your head, and that's so vague. It's like, do I lose 2 pounds by eating this for a week, or do I lose 3 pounds, or what happens here, there, and there? But now you're like, I need to eat this because then I'm going to have the fuel to do this cycle today. And you see the results of that straight away, as opposed to it being real vague. And that's class, because now everything has a purpose. Your nutrition has a purpose. Your run has a purpose. Your cycle has a purpose. But you need to do all three, but you didn't do all three at once. You went to cycle first because you realized if I get that down, then I can start layering up and adding to it. Your foundation was the cycling because you knew that would work for you. So some people listen to the podcast, they might need to get nutrition down first to make it work for them. Depends on where they're at in their journey. For some people, they prefer running, might be running first and then cycling. But you can't do everything you could try, but you're more than likely going to get overwhelmed if you were in the position you were in a couple months ago and you're like, I need to do this. I've got the Hardman coming up. But all of a sudden, now you're like, okay, now I've just got cycling come up. And then I got running. You break it down. So by the time this time next year, you're like, I've already layered it. Now I'm good to go. Once you add the swimming into it, new year, and you've built up to doing a marathon, the rest, now it's not going to say it's easy money because you're still doing a hell of a challenge, but it's a lot more of a manageable challenge there.
Oh, 100%. And it is that step by step. Like, and a lot of people try and take on the world when they're doing it. And for me, food is always a comfort. And I don't know what film it was, but they were like, if I'm happy, I eat. If I'm sad, I eat. And that is it. Like, if there's an occasion, it's like, I like food. I like cooking. Like, but what I found was when I was suffering in the first 2 weeks, like I did the cycle, and I had to stop the bike 6 or 7 times. Like I was getting like 3 kilometers and having to pull in and get off and stretch. And I just felt miserable. I was like, this is the first day. I'm in a heap. But then I'd go home and I'd be like, I'm going to make something nice because I feel shit about myself. But I was back on the bike the next day.
Yeah. So
I needed to, it's kind of like the monkey bar effect is the way I like to describe it. You can only let go of one hand. And I was letting go of, I'm pushing myself with the exercise. That's the hand that's let go of the bars. What do I have that is my routine and stuff? It's the food, it's the comfort, maybe it's a Coke Zero in the evening when we're watching Love Island. Whatever you're taking, whatever you're fancy.
No judgment here.
Now the hand is firmly on the fitness. It's starting to run itself. As I said, confidence is up, fitness is up. Now I'm starting to tell myself, sure, what's another 9K? And that's in 4 or 5 weeks. And I haven't been doing much. And you can verify, I'm not spoofing people. It's go through my Strava. It's just every day. And I didn't do anything on the weekends. For those who think I was out doing 100 kilometers on the weekends. Once Friday hit, I drove home on a Friday night with all my gear to wash. Saturday, Sunday were time off. And then Monday morning, I drove in with all my clean stuff. And then from Monday evening to Friday night, I cycled. And that was it. But now I'm ready to start taking on the weekends and now start looking at nutrition. So the other hand is coming forward. And then it's like, well, we've completed this task. We've got the marathon. And then we keep moving on towards the Ironman and maybe some heavier weightlifting and keep progressing to what I have in my head as a long-term goal, but it's very layered. And each of them steps is just letting go one hand at a time until I'm comfortable and stable, and then moving into the next thing. And hopefully that analogy kind of works for people, but you've seen the state I was in for the first while. I was even angry. I was just angry because I wasn't training. I was an angry, tall, baldy man, and it was terrible. But 5 weeks is what it's taken for me to comfortably cycle 110 kilometers. I'm sitting here doing a podcast with you, and I'm cycling into work for 17 kilometers tomorrow. Do you know, like, I already know I'm getting on the bike in the morning for 17 kilometers because my car is there. I have no choice.
You know what way getting in. Otherwise, you got awkward phone calls to make if you're not making it in.
So the first 5 minutes, my arse is going to be raw on the bike, but I have to get in there. So
how's the body feeling?
Actually really good. The bit that threw me this week was the running.
Right.
So I felt the legs were more tired from the 2 5Ks I did. And then the beauty of that was when I got on the bike, keeping the gears light but the spin cadence high, it loosened out that pain. It got it out. I've been using my massage gun. Stretching has been average. I do a little bit of stretching in the evening, focusing on the glutes and the hip flexors, because in that C position on the bike, I'm doing nothing but sitting. So I'm feeling it in the glutes. So, and then I'm starting to do glute activation before I go cycling, just to try and wake them up so they do something rather than just because my hammies are working hard, my lower back is working hard, and I'm just feeling the strain between the two.
Gotcha.
So trying to do some glute activation to do that. But apart from that, like I was in a bad way when I came in because it was warm and I did not take enough of the correct food today. But then once I ate, I'm sitting here full of energy, and I'm actually just putting my gear together so I can cycle in the morning. So it's in a good light now that it's like 90k and 110 for the day, and I'm already thinking about what I'm training for tomorrow, and that's a 5 week change. Like, some people are actually calling me a scumbag for doing 110 kilometers a day. Like, you're sick. What are you doing that for? I put it up on the Instagram, and everyone's like, you're fucking disgusting. What's wrong with you? And I was like, I could barely cycle 17 kilometers 5 weeks ago.
Isn't it mad that little snapshot of like the Instagram and stuff of, okay, I'm after doing 90, but no one sees the layers and stuff you put into it. Everyone's, oh, he could do that, because they probably think, oh, he's the same lad who ran a marathon in 3.5 hours. So he's like, if they're not listening to this podcast, or they're probably not on Strava, and they're like, oh, he just did 90k. Oh, he's a such and such for doing that, and not showing off, but kind of like he has that well within him. But little did he know 4 or 5 weeks ago, 9k of that would have been an absolute struggle going up the hillside gap, and not being able to do anything else after that 13k or steep uphill. You'd probably be totally goosed after that. But yet that 4 or 5 weeks, and that's the thing. My point with that is, when people see other people's Instagrams and their updates, and they're able to do this and this, know that it's a layered process, and you're after talking about how the 4 or 5 weeks you've taken to build up towards that it just doesn't happen overnight. Like fitness, it's rented, and you can get it and you can lose it.
No, I do agree. There are some people that have a ridiculous natural fitness that will not cycle, but they will come along with me and do that no problem, and I hate them. I am not that person. I am not. Right. I did not spend enough of those time. I played soccer and all that kind of stuff. I was a goalkeeper. I didn't have an engine as such. I wasn't trained in that cardiovascular element. Now, I was good at other things of that people find weird, like getting down on the ground, getting up 100 times. Like, I could do that better than most. But for me now, as I'm turning 30, it's I have to work hard to keep it. If I stop for 2 weeks, it does tailor off for me a little bit. And people can say, you don't lose it in 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, unfortunately I do. If I'm not consistent, I'm not going to be the same as I was. So it's a little bit shit in that sense. But just be consistent. Consistency is king. And like I said, it was 4 cycles, 4 days of hard work, 4.5 days of hard work. And that's essentially what got me here in 5 weeks. And then in 4 weeks' time, I'll cycle 560 kilometers, I hope, and then I'll switch eyes to the marathon, and then swimming and all will maintain, and then we're into a Hardman. So it's it is all about that layered approach, and probably postponing it and everything that happened was probably the best thing to happen to me. For a learning benefit for everyone else, because the confidence I have from just taking it step by step is just brilliant now. And that's why I would advise anyone going in or thinking of doing this, pick one and just see how you go for a couple of weeks and then add in the next.
It's going to make it so much better next year when you get there. You're going to be properly ready for it, instead of not talk about it again. But our first marathon, we weren't properly ready for it. Our bodies are bits for months and months afterwards. When you get all these stages, and we talk about it in the podcast the weeks and months ahead, when you get to next August and the Hardman's around the corner, you're like, I've spent a good year on this journey, and it's going to be a hell of a day for you. Like, it's just going to be so much more better to see all the steps and the progression you're making and get to that. But before all that, you've got 4 weeks, so you're going from Mizen to Malin Head. So you seem pretty good and good to go for that now.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I want to put myself in a position that I can enjoy it. Kind of same as you with the Ring of Kerry. Like, I don't want to be the first night I have to go to bed straight away. You know, I want to arrive in and have a beer, you know, like, and be able to enjoy my dinner and then wake up the next day and be a bit fragile for the first third of it or whatever. That's expected. And then settle into it the next day. So, like, there are a lot of people who will show up and just attempt this. That is a fact. I don't want to do that. I've done that too many times now. And I think Quest was the final straw for me, because that really affected me bad physically. Like, I reached, like, I put myself in a horrible situation in that one. And when you were like, oh, you could probably still do the Hardman, I was like, you know what? It needs an Ironman distance or a full distance. It needs your respect. Yeah. And you can't do it. And I don't want to be in physical pain crossing. Now, you might be in some, but I want to cross the finish line with a smile rather than thank fuck that's over. You know, like,
yeah, you want to make a good account of yourself.
Yeah,
you want to make a good account of yourself, so you're not like, I mean, if I could swim, I've no doubt I could do it in 20, 25 hours tomorrow. But yeah, what's the point in that? I also know that I'm going to be in bits 3-4 months afterwards. Like, and most of that marathon is going to be just walking or crawling or whatever it is. And most of that bike is going to be in the first gear, no matter if I'm going uphill or downhill or flats. And I'm just going to be in bits. Like, I think mentally you get through it, but the cost of that for the weeks and months ahead. And what did you really do? You're just stubborn for nearly a full day to do something, and you're in bits of 3-4 months. You can't do any training, and you're weaker, and God knows what other injuries and stuff you can pick up for yourself in there. So it's not just doing it. There's a certain enjoying that process, enjoying the journey, and feeling good about it, and feeling good in the day, and being able to do other stuff afterwards as well.
Yeah, and like that, it's everyone has the impression. I know we see it, Sean, through the industry, and it's like, get summer body ready, and then summer's here, so what's the point in training? I started my training in July, and that's when I started my training. Midsummer, I should have the 6-pack. I was carrying the keg, like, and that's when I started. And today it was 27 degrees, and it was probably the worst situation I could have put myself into for my longest one. But little things like that, and the callus in the mind, the Goggins on about stuff like that, because instantly I told myself, I was like, well, it won't be this hot in September. You know, like, it's little things like that I'm like, sure, that's worth an extra 20 kilometers. You know, like, it's little bits to get you towards that finish line, which is ideal. But yeah, I think I've harped on about it enough. It's just, I think, exciting for me for the first time in a long time to actually have a good day training, where I feel like I was like, you know what, we're getting back there. We're not there, but we're getting back there. And, you know, it's something to think about. It's something to smile about. So, yeah, if anyone is thinking about it, just start. Just take out the bike. Make the habit an impossibility to avoid. So now I wouldn't, even when I go back to Clane, so in and out of town at a minute, even when I go back to Clane, I'm actually, until the schools go back, I'm not too interested in driving into work. Yeah. I just think it's a waste of 2 hours of my time. I could be using that to train. You know, like, it's the mentality shift. That
mentality shift is there. And it's a couple of weeks, but you're there with that. And on that note, anything else you want to add to this week's episode?
No, that's it. So
that's it. So best of luck. We just changed the whole outro. He's on such a high, his own outro. Just instead of me waffling on, thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Just going to say, that's it. Best of luck for myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.